with what Bob Murray did. He made the team older.
Yeah.
He said he made the team faster. Like I said, it didn't really hurt the team, but I don't think it really did anything to inject offense in this team. How do you feel about Bob's moves, and where do you think this puts Anaheim?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long I've talked about this since trade deadline, but we did a 5-hour live show on Ducks and Pucks.
Oh, on Ducks and Pucks?
And it was a journey, to say the least, because it was, it started pretty slow like every trade deadline does, and then you get to the 3-hour mark, and you're like, okay, things are starting to pick up, and then, of course, I think we all remember, it might have been Frank Cervelli, but somebody, or John Shannon, I think, had tweeted out that the Ducks have interest in Max Pacioretty. And from there, until the end of the trade deadline, it was just panic everywhere, looking through tweets, reading tweets, and then, of course, nothing happens, and the big deal was the Ducks traded Chris Wagner for Chimera. But, getting to your question, they didn't do anything, really. I mean, I think it was a lateral trade, to say the least. I mean, Wagner essentially provides the same type of impact that you're going to get from a guy like Chimera and Chris Kelly. I don't want to rip on him too hard because he did have a decent game for a fourth liner. He didn't really make any mistakes that I saw, glaring mistakes at least. So they had decent debuts, but really the Ducks could have benefited from going out and spending big and getting a guy like Evander Kane who didn't cost the Sharks that much, and going out even spending big and getting a guy like Max Pacioretty, which ended up, it didn't materialize, but they're just missing still that key piece, and it's just a disappointing deadline to walk away from. And I don't want to discredit Murray and all the work that he's done for the Ducks to get them to the point they're at now, but they had to do something, right? We all felt they had to do something, and to come away with nothing, this is one of the most disappointing deadlines I think in a while.
I have to agree for the most part with you there. I mean, but Bob did come out and say, he did an interview with Custance on The Athletic, and he said, "Yeah, I'm waiting for them to show me something. Like, they need to show me. Like, are we a playoff team? Or are we not a playoff team, essentially?" And they're right there in the mix. And so, but I think my thinking is, if they're right there, you couldn't have flipped a pick.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't have flipped a prospect and brought in, and I know he's got whatever off-ice baggage he has going on in Buffalo, but an Evander Kane, you got to let a rival take him and just make their team stronger.
Too. I mean, it was nothing. And a fourth, possibly a first, if he re-signs. And even, if he re-signs, essentially the value is worth it, even if it's a first-round pick for a guy like Evander Kane. He's done well. He's playing on a line with Pavelski. Imagine him playing up on a line with Raquel and Getzlaf, how well he would do. And you have to give up a first, but we gave up a conditional second for Patrick Eaves, and then all else they included was a fourth and Danny O'Regan, who I don't know much about him, but I don't think he's definitely not an elite prospect. So
22 NHL games, 4 assists.
Yeah,
so
the Ducks could,
and he's 24.
That. I mean, what does that take? You think it takes the same conditional pick, a fourth, and even I think Kevin Waugh is probably a better prospect than Danny O'Regan. But I still think that gets the deal done, and for you not to go out and just even do that, you had to have known the price on Kane was low, especially getting that late in the day. And that's one of the most disappointing things to me. Everybody in our chat on that live show was like, how do you not compete and deal with that, especially when it's San Jose, the team that he ends up going to?
I don't know. It's what was funny about it too is Botterill, the GM in Buffalo, said that he got no offers other than that. Like,
yeah.
Really? You got nothing? I believe that was the quote. There was no offers. That's the best offer they got. Or that is either no offers or that was the best offer.
Was Murray in on Pacioretty like that deep where he was like, I'm not looking at anything else, I'm trying to get this done? That's the only way I could think of that you wouldn't want to go out and move that pick if you think you can go out and get a big fish, and it just didn't materialize. But then we saw the tweets that Bergeron was saying there was really no solid offers for Pacioretty. So what was he doing? Was he sleeping? Like, really?
You can't trust GMs, man. Yeah. They love to lie. I mean, look what happened with Dorian over in Ottawa. Everything's great. Everything's great with Karlsson. What are you talking about? Everything's great. We have no problems. But then the news comes out that George McPhee offered like 6 pieces in order to get Karlsson. But they were trying to make it less, and what held up that deal is Bobby Ryan, which is, you got to feel bad for Bobby Ryan because he's the cause of Erik Karlsson not being able to be moved because nobody wants to take on his $7 million contract. once beloved player here in Anaheim. I used to love him playing on the Ducks, by the way.
I think a lot of people did.
Like Bobby playing here. But yeah, so you can't really trust the GMs on that end. But I just have a hard time believing that Murray couldn't find it somewhere to help push this team over the hump. And I know that he was really counting on Patrick Eves being a force. Obviously, he re-signed him to that 3-year deal. Unfortunately, Eves is still out with his illness, and hopefully he comes back at some point in his career. I mean, obviously his health's more important than hockey. But if we're talking Ducks hockey right now, they need a shot in the arm, and I feel like Chris Kelly and Jason Chimera were not it. And Murray's excuse was it brings leadership into the locker room. That's great. Cool. I don't know how much you can yell in the locker room about scoring goals. Those, like you said, they didn't really make a difference. They played 9 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, who are they talking to? Did they go and tell Ricard Raquel to make sure he goes backhand bar down in the game to make sure the game's tied before the end of the first period? No. Mm-hmm. So I'm just not real sure. And people disagree with me, and I understand. I'm not really sure how much all this leadership translates into winning. I mean, just ask Team USA.
Yeah.
When they decide who to not take to the World Cup or who to not take to or was it the World Cup of Hockey, NHL's World Cup of Hockey, and then who they did not decide to take to the Olympics. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and there's no way, no matter how well Chris Kelly and Jason Chimera play, there's no way they're going to have a big enough impact on this team to make a huge difference, barring them scoring a significant playoff goal, like an overtime winner, but you rarely can see them out there in an opportunity like that anyway. And I think another thing that's disappointing, we talked about Vanek at the beginning of the show. You look at the price he went for. It was a couple prospects. It wasn't, and it was like, I think it was Jussi Jokinen. And
poor guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's been fourth team this year where he's been moved to. He's packing light for sure. He doesn't have too many suitcases. The fact that he's been moved 4 times already, but yeah, I mean, come on, you couldn't give up a similar return of Jussi Jokinen and like a B or C prospect for Thomas Vanek and at least bring him in and help out, because I think you and me talked before that he could have at least provided a spark for the Ducks top 9 rather than bringing in Jason Chimera and Chris Kelly and hoping that works out.
Well, yeah, let's talk about exactly what Vanek is. And I know you probably talked ad nauseum about it on your Ducks and Pucks show, but he's all offense. Like, you can't count on that guy to backtrack. He's not going to be a penalty killer. Like, Vanek is 100% playing offense, power play. Like, that's what he is. That's exactly the guy the Ducks need on wing. They need a guy that's all offense right now, provide another scoring threat. So I know we're a Ducks podcast, but how the heck does Jim Benning have a job in Vancouver? How did he not get picks for Vanek? He got Jussi Jokinen and whoever. Just hysterical to me. And like you said, Bob couldn't have given a pick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Benning gets an extension, and that extension. But I mean, the GMs who got extensions. Benning gets an extension, and Pierre Dorian get extensions. Like, they did nothing. Like, Dorian traded for Burrows, and he traded Jonathan Dallin for Burrows, who's a pretty good B+ prospect and is doing very well in Sweden right now. And you got Burrows for him. Straight up hockey deal for Burrows. And he gets an extension, doesn't deal Karlsson, trades the moon for Duchesne, which has actually started to finally look like it's working out for them. And then again, you look at Jim Benning and the deals he's made, trading for Goodbranson in the first place, and then continuing to try and go with that experiment and re-signing him, and then also getting an extension of his own. I don't know. I don't know what I mean, is it loyalty? It has to be loyalty. Like, come on. There's no way these guys earned an extension from hockey moves.
Like I've said on my on podcast show, man, just I'll be a GM. I'll be really, really good at it too. It's I'm not part of the old boys club, so man, I'm not going to get any. I'm not going to be able to swindle anybody out of any deals, but maybe I will, because I mean they trade just about anybody for anything. It seems like. I still feel like I could be a GM in the NHL. I mean, obviously not, but I mean, in my
I've logged a significant amount of time on be a GM in NHL, so I feel like I have enough experience to at least rival what Pierre Dorian's doing in Ottawa. I feel like I could get it done. I feel like I could get that Karlsson deal done
easily, and not even having the game set on rookie. So I think you could do it too. So I gotta to wrap up the trade deadline stuff about who we could add to this team. Were you not super excited at the defensive player the Ducks were looking to pick up?
Ian Cole?
Do you remember who they were looking at? No, not Ian Cole. I think it was Jack Johnson.
Oh,
the Ducks were looking to pick up Jack Johnson.
Don't bring that up, please.
They were looking to fill the hole of Kevin BX's bad play with Jack Johnson here.
If we're talking about Jack Johnson, I'm pretty sure we had Jack Johnson in our chat on the trade deadline show, because we had a guy for literally 3.5 hours of the show hyping up Jack Johnson like I've never seen anybody hype a player before. And I feel like the only person who could hype a player like that is that player. So I feel like Jack Johnson was definitely in our chat, hyping himself up, talking about his playoff experience and his power play points in the playoffs and how he's almost a point per game apparently on the power play in the playoffs. So I mean, he was going hard. He really wanted the Ducks to get Jack Johnson. Did not like how we were bringing up his negative, almost abysmal possession numbers with Columbus for pretty much his entire career, even dating back to when he was with the Kings. But yeah, that was awful. I just think, what was the return going to be? That's what I was wondering. Like, what do you get for a guy like Jack Johnson, who is a former first-round pick, pretty high pick too?
I imagine it would have been picks. It would have been picks.
Probably more than he's worth, definitely.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, all hockey aside, I felt bad for that guy, his personal story with his family and all.
Yeah.
But what's going on with him as a hockey player, he would not help the Ducks. So I was really happy to see Bob now flip picks for him. I would have been disappointed if he did, because he could have used those picks for people we just talked about. But let's move on from the deadline, because I know that was several days ago. But I had to talk to you about that a little bit to see who the Ducks could have added to their lineup to go forward here towards the playoffs. Let's look ahead anyway, though. We've got 2 more games in the homestand, and then back-to-backs on the road to wrap up this upcoming week. Got Chicago at home. We have an early game, a 1 p.m. start this Sunday. And then we have the ever-dangerous Ovechkin, who was coming to Anaheim here on Tuesday with the Washington Capitals. And then the Ducks have a back-to-back mini road trip between the Predators on Thursday and the Dallas Stars on Friday. That's a dangerous week outside of Chicago.
Yeah, and I mean, especially the way Chicago's been playing lately, getting thrashed by San Jose, probably going to have a tough game against LA. Watch, they'll bring their A game against the Ducks and play a tough game, because they always play. They always do. Game. Yeah, they always play a tough game against Anaheim. I think the luckiest thing is it's not at United Center, which is nice. It's at Honda Center, so that's going to be big. Kind of turns the tide a bit, but we're still going to see a ton of Chicago fans there, probably, like we always do.
The Sea of Red, every Ducks home game.
I mean, pretty much anywhere. They travel as well as any team in the National Hockey League. There's always somebody there. They're pretty much like the Leafs or the Habs, where there's a majority of them in any arena you go to. But you're right. That's probably the easier game. It's an early one. It's against a team who's struggling. You kind of expect to win that one. But then after that, like Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, those are tough matchups. Washington's in a fight right now. They were kind of free and clear in the beginning part of the season, and then they've struggled, and now Pittsburgh and the Flyers have caught up to them, and I think they've passed them, or they're close to passing them. It's kind of a logjam out in the Metro right now. But that road trip, or the mini road trip as you called it, on Thursday, Friday, back-to-back against Nashville, Dallas, that's deadly. That's a killer road trip.
That Nashville team is scary, man. Yeah. I don't know how much I like that for the Ducks. Obviously, playing it, that's going to be just probably a gong show, to be honest with you, one way or the other. Physically, it's going to be a nightmare. Offensively, those Preds are a nightmare. The Ducks need to come in with their best defensive game here, and I think they're probably going to try to hope to contain the Predators and make it a low-scoring game if they can. Yeah. That's what I would kind of see it go as, because that team's just full of speed. Yeah, that blue line's right up there with anybody else in the league. I mean, easily.
Had 5 assists in this last game. Just exploding out of nowhere. And I think underrated, they made one of the better acquisitions of the deadline, going out and getting Ryan Hartman from Chicago. I mean, he's only 23. Tenacious forechecker, provides offense. I believe he's already scored his first goal, and I think it was a game winner in the game against Winnipeg, which that game was insane anyway. It was a 6-5 game that Nashville came back in the third period from being down 5-3. And they've just made a difference. And if this team couldn't get any better, they